everybody, how are you? Welcome to this very special Facebook Live. The reason I'm coming to you today is that, well, in part, is that in 10 weeks' time, I'm going to be turning 42. And as we know, according to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, turning 42 is a big one. 42 is the meaning of life. And so, my picture just changed. All right. 42 is the meaning of life. And so I thought this would be a great time to take a bit of time to think about my life purpose and what I want to do, and I guess how on track I am with that, and thought maybe to do a little bit of a challenge leading up to my 42nd birthday to see if by the time I get to my 42nd birthday, I might be a little bit more on track with my life purpose than perhaps I am right now. And so my life purpose, as I've spoken about numerous times and you may have heard me talk about before, is that I want to really focus on creating the best environment possible for my family to grow up in. The second part of it is that I want to inspire and help create a healthier world, in part for my family to grow up in, because I know that's going to be a massive influence on them, but also just because that is my act of service. That is my contribution to the world. That is my passion, is to create health and wellness in everything and everyone around me. And the third part of that is always to have fun. And so as I've been sort of reflecting, heading towards my 42nd birthday, on how I'm going on those things, I'm feeling pretty good, to be honest. I'm feeling pretty happy. You know, I know that I have done a good job of creating a healthy environment for my family. Hello, Summer, how are you? I know that I've had an impact, you know, through my chiropractic practice, which I'm feeling really good about. We started my new practice just a few months ago and has grown exponentially already, far greater than I had anticipated even. And so check out healthychoiceschiropractic.com.au if you want to check that out, if you're around the area in Adelaide. But that's been going great. And obviously my books, my podcast, all of those sort of things, I'm feeling really happy with that. But I always feel like I can do better. And so as I thought about how or why I wanted to do better, I really thought that the one thing that I feel like at the moment I could most fine-tune would be my diet. And there's a number of reasons for that. I think I used to be a lot stricter on my diet. You know, I used to be a lot more black and white about my diet, that there were foods that I ate and there were foods I didn't eat. There were things that I did and there were things that I didn't do. And over the years, I've modified that a little bit because I've sort of moved away from trying to have too much black and white thinking and trying to be a little bit more flexible, which as a general rule, I think is a healthier place to be. I think it's better for you health-wise. I think it's better for you mentally, obviously with exceptions, because we know that for some people, yeah, for example, celiacs, then, you know, gluten-free is pretty important. So, however, for me, I feel like when I'm at my best is when I'm being more flexible, but within that flexibility, getting it right most of the time. And so I feel like for a variety of reasons over the last couple of years, that most of the time has become slightly less. You know, if I look at it and compare my diet, you know, it's very easy for me to look at it and say, well, I still think I'm doing better than most. And when we look at society around us and the enormous rates of chronic disease that exist, the enormous amounts of metabolic disorders, the rates of obesity, the rates of diabetes in the world around us, then at some stage you have to start thinking, well, maybe that's not an adequate population to be comparing myself to or aspiring to be, you know, just doing better than most. I think I would like to be doing better than that. I would like to be really extraordinarily healthy. And so, you know, I can look at a number of reasons over the last couple of years. You know, there's been a lot of turbulence in terms of work relationships, you know, work environments that I've been in over the last couple of years. As I said, over the last 6 months, particularly starting up my new practice, it's been very busy. I've been working 2 different jobs. I've been sort of stretching myself out between work and family and all of the other projects that I do. Obviously, so I'm just going to plug in my laptop here. Obviously, you know, the environment of the world over the last couple of years has been a little bit more stressful than usual, and you know, trying to run, for example, a podcast network that primarily revolved around live events, especially for the sort of financial impact of it. It hasn't been the best time of that race. So there's been a bit of I don't know if stress is the right word to use, but there's been a bit of upheaval. Um, I think over the last couple of years, getting the work-life balance has been challenging. Anytime you introduce, I think, a new child into a house, in a split family, introducing a new child, and this is not in any way saying that's a bad thing, it's a great thing. But introducing Timmy into the world has been wonderful, and at the same time has taken a while to find that balance. There's been a bit of sleep deprivation there, which sometimes affects our life choices and our ability to make the right decisions when we're tired and stressed and sometimes strung out. And so for all of those reasons, I feel like there have been things in my diet that haven't been as good as I think they could be or perhaps should be. And so I thought this was a great time to do a little bit of a challenge for 10 weeks just to see what would happen if I was a little bit tighter in terms of some of those rules. This is not with the intention of keeping on doing all of these 8 things forever, but with the intention of potentially doing some of them forever, or at least for the foreseeable future. But it's really with the intention of just seeing how I feel when I do these things, and reminding myself how good I can feel when I am a little bit tighter in terms of these things. And then at the end, deciding which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to chuck. I mean, alcohol is a great example. I didn't drink for 8 years. And then a number of years ago, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to reintroduce alcohol into my life and was pretty happy with that decision. And then since that time, my alcohol consumption has gradually increased. I was probably a bit of a binge drinker in my younger years. I'm certainly not that now. Like, for me to have more than a glass or two would be very, very rare nowadays. However, I did do a challenge, and those of you who are in my exercising resilience group will know that I did do a challenge a couple of months ago and did 30 days with no coffee, as Alison Kennedy has just pointed out, no coffee and no alcohol for 30 days, and I felt better for it. So that got me thinking again as to whether I do want alcohol to be part of my life and part of my future, or whether I would prefer to not drink at all, or whether I just want to sort of tighten up a little bit and maybe consume a little bit less. So I'm going to play with that. Not so much play. I'm going to play with it over the next 10 weeks. But then also, once these 10 weeks are up, then I'll play with that again and decide what I want to do moving forwards in that regard. So in terms of why I'm focusing on diet, because I have mentioned that I'm doing this challenge to a couple of people, and a couple of people asked me why I'm focusing on diet. I guess there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm definitely, as you would know from hearing me, I'm definitely a believer that there is more to health than just diet. I think that movement is really important. I think that mindset is really important. I think there's a lot of other factors we could introduce into this in terms of sleep and sunshine and all of those sort of things. Nature, fresh air, a whole bunch of different things we could include in this. The reason I'm focusing on diet is, I guess, I feel like my exercise, I'm really happy with the exercise I'm doing at the moment. I've been exercising 3 or 4 times a week with my best mate Andrew in my gym at home, and I'm loving it. We're doing some really good fitness. We're really pushing each other and challenging each other. We're hitting PBs, we're achieving goals. I'm really happy with how that's going. I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I get lots of other physical activity outside of that, in terms of looking after our 1 acre property, in terms of playing with the kids, in terms of hiking, walking, all those sort of things that we do in nature. So I'm pretty happy with the physical side of things. I'm pretty happy with the mental side of things. I know that the mental side of things, in many ways I feel like, for me, the biggest difference I can make at the moment to my mental side of things would probably be 3 things. One of them is my mental game tends to be better when I don't drink alcohol. I just tend to function better, be happier, be less moody, less grumpy. I just know that for a fact. Similarly with coffee, I'm not a very good coffee metabolizer. So I tend to find when I'm not doing coffee at all, despite the fact that sometimes I might be a little bit more tired if Timmy's had a bit of a rough night, on the whole, as that accumulates over days and weeks, I tend to not respond that well to coffee, and I do start to get a bit of a stressed, anxious, grumpy, as I'm sure others could attest to. So I feel like those are probably 2 of, and then the third one in terms of my mental side is probably sleep. So I feel like there's not really any specific mental challenges I could be including here that would make a significant difference for me. But I really think that the biggest ones for me at the moment, the controllables, are probably coffee and alcohol. And I will be trying to do the best I can with sleep, but I know that that is slightly less controllable at the moment with a toddler in the house who isn't necessarily always sleeping well. Can make that a little bit of a challenge. So I guess that gives you a bit of an idea as to why I'm focusing on diet in terms of this particular challenge. I will be updating and keeping everyone abreast of this challenge and talking about this challenge a lot, primarily in my new Facebook group, which is Healthy Lifestyle Choices. So if you're seeing this on my page, then you can go, or inside one of my groups, or you might already be in the group, but if you're not in the group, if you go to my page, Dr. Brett Hill on Facebook, you can click in the link there, the Linktree link, and you'll see the link to Healthy Lifestyle Choices, which is a Facebook group, which is free and open to everyone that you're more than welcome to join. And that's primarily where I'll be communicating about this challenge. So if you want to follow this one, then you can follow it there. And obviously I'll also be communicating about this one inside my Exercising Resilience mentoring group with a select few people who are in there. And I'll be doing some sort of more close conversations and one-on-one mentoring with those people as if they choose to join me on some or all of this journey as well. So one of those people, Helen, has just said that she's been coffee free since August 1. So that might be when I started. I did my month. Was that August? I can't remember, Helen, what month I actually did it. But started doing 3 days, then went to 5. Before I knew it was a month with no coffee. Didn't really miss it and feel calmer without it. Yeah, that's tended to be my experience as well, Helen. So as I often do with these things, I tend to go for a session. I might do and that's really up where I see the benefit of these challenges. I might do a challenge for 30 days, 21 days, whatever I do it for, and then decide what I want to do about it at the end. But often I find that if I have a couple of goes of going without it and I feel better without it, then it makes it really easy to make the decision to make that just a lifestyle change rather than a challenge. And so I'm sure that's what will happen with this one. So Helen says she's in. She's going to join in. So this will be fun. I don't know if Helen even knows what's coming in the challenge yet, but she's in anyway. So here's my things that I want to do over the next 10 weeks. I'm going to share with you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to talk with you a little bit about why and how I've chosen them. So the first one is no liquid calories. So what I should say, I guess, before getting too much into this is that what I'm not doing in terms of this challenge is I'm not calorie counting. So I'm not a big fan of calorie counting. I think that can lead to a large degree of unhealthy obsession around diet and around weight and around all those sort of things. And so I'm not a big fan of calorie counting. I think most of the time we can get the results we want by looking at what we're eating rather than the calories and how much we're eating. So I think if we're eating real food, if we're eating whole food, then that's a better way of doing it. If we're eating satiating foods, then that's a better way of doing it than necessarily counting calories. So so I'm not a big fan of calorie counting. I know other protocols, Helen's just mentioned Cindy's fat loss protocol, which is a good one. But it does have an element, I believe, Helen, of calorie counting in there. So that's not the way I'm going to be going about doing it. I'm also not going to be focusing on how much I eat. Like, I love to eat, and I don't want to deprive myself of eating when I'm hungry. And so, and I'll talk about, there will be an element of fasting in this, so I'll mention that in a second anyway, but I'm not going to focus on how much I eat. So I'm not going to be sitting down at any one particular meal going, I better only eat a small portion of this because I'm doing this challenge. I'm going to eat as much as I want on this challenge. And I feel that as long as I'm eating healthy food, I'm eating the right foods, and I'm eating satiating foods, that's going to enable me to maintain a really healthy diet and a really healthy body, and more importantly, a really healthy performance, because that's what I'm focusing on here, is my ability to have fun, to create a great environment for my family, and to inspire others. And I think the way to do that has nothing to do with a weight on the scales or a percentage of fat on the body or even a progress photo. So I'm going to be focusing on my performance, not on the calories and the quantity of food. And I'm not going to be focusing on my weight. I think weight is a really poor measure. I probably will be checking in on it a little bit as we go along, I'm going to be honest, because just out of curiosity more than anything. So I can tell you I did check in on it just a little earlier. you can tell how I don't obsess about it because I didn't bother. I did it just in my clothes, like I'm wearing my jeans and my shoes and whatever. So I'm not caring about whether it's a few kilos here or there or a few grams here or there. I don't even know how much my jeans and my shoes would weigh. But I can tell you that I was 97.9 kilos today as day one at the start. So as I said, if I do check in on it as I go along, I'll let you know maybe. But I'm definitely not focused. It's not a weight loss exercise here. It's a performance exercise. I do feel like over the last year or two, as I haven't been as strict in my diet, I know I've gained a fair bit of weight that is muscle as a result of all the training I've been doing and the strength program that Andrew and I just did. But I also feel like I've gained a little bit of weight that's not necessarily helping me achieve my goals, and it's probably hindering me a little when it comes to my CrossFit, particularly some of the body weight movements like pull-ups and that sort of stuff. So I do feel like there's probably benefit in me losing a little bit of weight, but once again, it's not my goal. My goal is to do these things for the next 10 weeks in order to perform better and more particularly to better achieve my life purpose. It's always going to come back to that. So someone says, I've never been a coffee drinker. Yeah, I've never been I've fluctuated in and out of coffee probably many times in my life, but I think I've always done better. For me personally, when I haven't done it, but I know that changes with different people in terms of how they metabolize coffee. So anyway, so I won't be here's my 10 things, my 8 things for the next 10 weeks. One is that I won't be consuming liquid calories. So once again, whilst I'm not trying to necessarily restrict calories, I don't want to be consuming unnecessary calories or unproductive calories either, right? Because I think, ultimately, one of the things I'd like to see out of this, as I just mentioned, is I'd probably like to just get a little bit leaner because I think that would help my performance in terms of CrossFit. I think that'll help my energy. I think I will feel better, fitter, stronger, better about myself, more able to help and inspire others. And being fit and healthy and energetic is going to help me create a great environment for my family and have fun in the gym, hopefully setting some PBs and beating my mate Andrew because that makes me feel good too. So I won't be consuming liquid calories, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One is that I feel like a lot of the time they're just kind of empty calories. I mean, most of the liquid calories I have would probably be if I was to add some honey to a coffee or a tea, which I don't do very often. Mostly it's probably coconut milk and almond milk in a coffee if I was to have one. In terms of how I'm going to define liquid calories, I probably will still have, like, say, a kombucha, which does have some calories but very few. I probably and I will still have, for example, a smoothie or a smoothie bowl. So and this is where it gets complicated, right? Whilst they are technically probably liquid calories, I feel like they're whole food calories. In other words, it's like the whole food blended up. But even then, as I think about it, I'm probably going to steer clear of those for the most part, because I think there is something to be said for the ability of liquid calories to be more readily and quickly absorbed into your body, and to be quicker to be digested, which I think makes them slightly less satiating, because they don't make you feel fuller for longer. And so in terms of, once again, that satiation, which I think is really important if you do want to maintain a healthy weight, I feel like liquid calories are slightly less than solid calories. So I'll be avoiding liquid calories. I'll be sticking to sort of whole real food, and I just think I'll do well for that. That'll be an easy way for me, because ultimately, like I said, if you want to get lean, you do need to consume less calories than you burn. But you don't need to count them to do it, right? I think if you just follow these simple rules of making sure you're eating high quality, healthy food that's satiating, then that's the best way to do that without causing lots of stress. So I won't be consuming alcohol, and a big part of that is because, for the most part, the alcohol is liquid calories, so that's pretty obvious. Although, I have gone through periods where I've, for example, only drunk gin and gin and soda. Yeah, gin and soda. I originally started drinking gin and tonic, and then I actually realised how much sugar is in tonic, which shocked me. I didn't realise. So I was doing gin and soda, which is, I think, actually when Steffi and I first met, I was drinking gin and soda, and I did that for quite a while. So it's not just about the calories, it's about my mental health, for want of a better word, or mental performance might be more accurate. It's not, I don't think I've got a specific mental health condition or diagnoses. However, I feel like mentally I perform better, and my moods are better when I don't have alcohol. So that's the number 2 that I'm going to do for this 10-week period. Number 3, as I mentioned before, is no coffee. Once again, I feel like I know, without having tested it, I know within myself that I'm not a good coffee metabolizer. Coffee doesn't tend to agree with me. When I do have coffee over a period of time, I feel like it builds up to the point where, my dip after I've had the coffee means that then I need to have the coffee just to get back to kind of normal. So I don't ultimately get any long-term benefits, I don't think, in terms of my energy. And I do feel like I do get a bit more stressed and anxious and grumpy. Like it activates that stress response in my body. And when that's on for longer, then I don't feel like then I'm as productive. I don't feel like I'm having as much fun. I don't feel like I'm being the best example to my family, and the best example to the world that I want to inspire to health and wellness. So coffee is going to go. I'm not going to consume any grains or pseudo grains. So once again, this is probably something I've loosened off on quite a bit over the last year or two. Not so much grains, because I really don't consume wheat almost at all. There probably have been a few exceptions. I can't think of any off the top of my head. However, I have loosened off in terms of consuming more, I guess, like gluten-free products. So, I might have gluten-free bread in a burger, for example. And I don't feel like that there's been any benefit to doing that for me, right? So I feel like it's meant that I've probably created a little bit more inflammation in my body. I've probably consumed more carbs than I otherwise would like to, or would naturally do if I wasn't introducing those products. And so as a general rule, I think, and I think I think it affects my energy, where I think if I have that little bit of a spike from those, those sort of gluten-free bread or whatever it might be, that the next day I sort of have a bit of a dip and then feel like I need to have something more carby to sort of bounce me back up again. So I feel like that's pushed me onto a little bit more of that sort of roller coaster. And so I think being stricter on that, or being strict on that for 10 weeks at least, and then deciding where to go from there. But I have a feeling that's one I'm going to stick with, because I really feel like I did better when I just didn't have any of it at all. And it's not a big deal. Like, for me, it often means that if I go and have a big breakfast, I'll just order it without the bread. If I'm having a burger, I'll ask for the burger without the bread. And that's fine. I'm totally cool with that. I'm totally easy with that. If I'm at a restaurant where they serve bread and they put it in front of me, I'll often ask them to take it away, because I know that if it sits there long enough in front of me, I'll probably eat it. And so I just ask them to take it away. So I'm not going to do any grains or pseudo grains. And so that's going to be a good one for me, I reckon. I can already tell I'm going to feel really good about that. And I think that's going to really help me be more energetic and feel better within my body, and probably lean up a little bit, which would be kind of cool too. So I'm not going to consume dairy. What are we up to? Number 5. I'm not going to consume dairy, because dairy just has never agreed with me since a young kid. It's always kind of made me churn in the tummy, and made my stools a little bit loose, if I want to get really graphic. But I also feel like I just do better without dairy, in terms of my ears, in terms of my sinuses. If I have dairy, I tend to get pretty clogged up. So I very rarely have dairy. I would say the only times I've had dairy in recent times is probably with a bit of cheese, if someone's presented it at a party, or if someone's brought it around to our house when they've come over for dinner, and I've probably had a bit of cheese on a gluten-free cracker or something like that. So this one's not a big deal at all for me, but I just thought I'd include it in here because I'm going to do it for the 10 weeks. And I just thought, in terms of, being honest with you guys about, I thought it was good for you to know, if you're looking at what I'm doing and my progress, it's just kind of good to know that I'm not doing dairy as part of that journey. If you're thinking about, joining in or doing something similar. So I'm not going to consume dairy. I'm not going to consume potato or sweet potato, right? So this is once again an interesting one for me because I don't consume much potato at all. Although in recent times I've probably let that come in a little bit more as well, and that kind of would just be if I was, if I was on the run and I grabbed a counter meal at a pub and I might get a steak and salad and it might have some potato chips with it and I'd eat them. Or yeah, and sweet potato we eat lots of. So we eat lots of sweet potato chips at home. That's like definitely a staple for us. And for the most part, I feel pretty good about that. So I can see. I'm not going to do the potato and the sweet potato for the length of this challenge, mostly because I just know that in terms of sort of resetting in terms of my energy and kind of resetting in terms of my carb consumption. And resetting in terms of just feeling really fit and lean and healthy when I hit my 42nd birthday. I feel like I'm going to do better. That's going to work better by just taking these out altogether. So this is probably more of a short-term reset rather than a long-term, like I'm not going to do this forever. So I would imagine when I get to the end of this journey, it's very likely that I'll say no to potato and yes to sweet potato, but maybe just in a bit more balanced way. Maybe it's not having sweet potato every single meal, lunch and dinner. Maybe it's having sweet potato some nights and just having veg other nights and having salad other nights and mixing it up a little bit more. So for the course of these 10 weeks, I'm not going to do sweet potato or potato, but most likely when I get to the end, there'll definitely, I could almost say definitely, but there'll very likely still be sweet potatoes in my life beyond the 10-week challenge. So the sweet potatoes are more of just a reset and a 10-week challenge just to really get fit and lean and healthy. Whereas the potatoes, I think I just do better without them, full stop, so I'll probably just leave them out. I'm only going to snack on nuts, fruits, and veg. So this has probably been, I thought about saying I'm not going to snack because that would be probably an easier way to do it in terms of the challenge and would help in terms of me consuming less calories. Be an easy way to probably lean up a little bit more and to get a healthier balance and to not consume too much. So if I was really worried about my weight, which I'm not, I'd probably would, if I really wanted to lean up and lose weight, then I probably would just say I wouldn't snack. Because I think it is a way to perhaps consume more calories than your body naturally wants to. Because I think that never in the history of humanity have we had such readily available snack foods that we could just graze and consume all day long. So I think probably if I really wanted to do this as like a weight loss thing, I'd probably just say I wouldn't snack at all. But I'm not too fussed about my weight, to be honest. And I feel like when I've done this before and I've kind of been snacking and just having nuts or fruits or veg, often focusing on sort of nuts and avocado is kind of a bit of a staple because they're both a bit higher fat and a bit more satiating. Then that tends to work really well for me. So I decided that rather than kind of trying to be too strict and kind of punishing myself and denying myself food if I feel like having a snack, I wanted to do this in a really healthy way that's really kind to myself and kind to my body, and I want that to be the example to everybody to kind of say, well, hey, you don't need to be denying yourself, you don't need to be restricting, you don't need to be punishing yourself. You can still have snacks and be healthy and be performing well and having fun and inspiring people. So I will still be snacking. Like I said, probably lots of nuts and avocado, but there'll be a bit of other sort of fruit and veg in there as well. I often will just snack on like a cucumber or a carrot. Those are probably the main veg. Sometimes some sweet peas I might snack on sometimes. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Coming back to the grains and the pseudo grains, I'd say the other thing that often creeps in with the grains and the pseudo grains is when we do have like a bit of a lunch platter. So we'll often make up a lunch platter at home, and it'll be some cold meats, some tomatoes, some cucumber, some carrots, some nuts, some avocado. Often it's either some dip or some I'm having a blank. What's it called? pate. That's what I was trying to think of, some pate. And often we would have that, and we would sometimes with that have corn chips. So corn chips is something we've been having from time to time, mostly in that sort of scenario. Whereas previously I would always just have cucumber or carrots as what I would use with a dip. And so that's definitely something that I reckon I'm going to go back to and revert back as well. So yeah, Helen, hummus. I never had to say that, hummus. Anyway, is not one I've ever really liked. I think I've never loved the taste of it, but I've generally avoided sort of like beans as well. And I think hummus is beans or peas, isn't it? Anyway, and so it's not one that I've ever generally, it's never been my go-to, and I've never felt like it was the healthiest option for me. I've always preferred usually an avocado-based or a nut and basil-based dip, or preferably a pate. I really like pate because it's really filling, it's really satiating, it's got really high nutrient density, and a huge variety of nutrients in it. So that's generally my go-to for those reasons. Anyway, so I'm only going to snack on processed nuts, fruits, and veg. And then number 8 is that on every Friday, I'm going to fast through till dinner. So this is one that's not going to be difficult for me. I've been doing this almost every Friday. There've been probably maybe a handful of exceptions. One of them was actually last Friday, but maybe a handful of exceptions. Last Friday, so I just forgot that it was Fasting Friday. We were away on a holiday for a long weekend, and I remember I didn't eat in the morning, and then I got to lunch, and I forgot that it was Friday, and we just bought lunch, and I ate it, and I didn't care. It was fine. But yeah, for the most part, for the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've been doing a Fasting Friday, where essentially I will not eat Friday through till dinner time. So it's kind of generally ends up being a little bit under 24 hours from whatever I eat dinner or after dinner Thursday night through to what is often an early-ish dinner on Friday. So it's often sort of somewhere in the 20 to 24 hour mark. And it's just a very natural thing for me now. I don't notice it. I don't even think about it. I don't feel hungry. It's just what I do on Friday. I'm in the office here doing all my admin stuff on Friday. So I just get up, I come straight in, I work through. I'll often have a cup of tea. I might have a kombucha. And sometimes a little bit of salt if I feel like I'm feeling a bit funny or lightheaded, but that's almost never, because I think I get enough salt in the rest of my diet anyway. And so that's what I do. So once again, this is not going to be a hard thing for me in terms of this challenge. This is just a natural part of my everyday life. But I just wanted to make sure I put it here so that you know, if you're following along, that that's what I'm doing. So, if you're looking at the results I'm getting, or wanting to do the same, or wanting to emulate, or whatever, or thinking it's stupid, I don't know, then just know that that's one of the things that I'll be doing. So, awesome. Sorry, I was just reading some feedback there from Summer, which is awesome, that she's doing very well. Congratulations, Summer. That is brilliant. That is well done. So, in terms of my expectations of this challenge, to be honest, I don't have many. I'm expecting to quite enjoy this challenge. I think the biggest risk of me not failing, because I don't really believe in failing, but the biggest risk of me, not being as strict as I would like to be over these 10 weeks is just literally me forgetting. So I've got to remember that I'm doing this for 10 weeks, and each time I go to eat something or do something, probably one of the biggest ones will be what I just mentioned in terms of the snacking, because what I forgot to say that I meant to say was that in terms of snacking, my biggest weak point is undoubtedly paleo treats, right? So gluten-free, dairy-free bars, cakes, dessert sort of things. I don't even know what you want to call them, slices, those sort of things, right? And so I consume way more of those than I'd like to admit. Whenever I go to a cafe and I'll have a cup of tea, and it's just my little kind of me time and my little quiet time, and I finally get a little bit of time to myself, I'll generally have either a cup of tea or sometimes a coconut milk hot chocolate, or sometimes a coconut milk coffee in recent times, and have that sort of treat. And so I know that they are whilst they are healthy ingredients, and you could sort of break them down and say any of those ingredients in and of themselves are totally good and fine. Yeah, Helen says bliss balls. Yeah, totally. And whilst I know that all of those ingredients in and of themselves are good, I also know that they're kind of a bit of a dangerous combination of fats and carbohydrates, which tends to be the least healthy thing for you. Like people who just eat carbs or people who just eat fat tend to go better, it seems, than people who eat fats and carbohydrates. So certainly in such caloric dense forms as those sort of treats, right? So I just know that I'm going to be better, healthier, leaner, happier without them. I even struggle to say happier because I do love eating them and I do love having my little quiet time and having them. But I know that I can still have my quiet time. I can have a cup of tea because I'm not consuming caffeine, just to be clear. I will still have some caffeine. I will still have my cups of tea. I'm just not going to do coffee. I tend to handle tea way better than coffee. So I will still have cups of tea. I just won't be having coffee. And I will just have with it, I reckon probably what I'll end up doing is just having lots of nuts. And so I'll just make sure I've always got sort of a pack of nuts in the car and a packet of nuts at work here. And that's what I'll snack on with my cup of tea and have a little chill. So my expectation is that this will be relatively easy. Gaze, I had a question. What's wrong with purple sweet potato? Do you know what? Okay, there's nothing wrong with purple sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are great. They're really healthy. They're lower carb than your potatoes, so they're definitely a healthier option than your potatoes. They're real food. They've got lots of great nutrients in them. And as I said earlier, I certainly imagine that for the purpose of this challenge, I'm not going to eat them just because I want to really do a bit of a reset, particularly in terms of my carb consumption. So I'm really just going to it's one of the easier ways I can just tone that down a little bit. But I certainly imagine that once I get to the end of this challenge, sweet potatoes will be one of the things I'll be reintroducing, perhaps slightly less than what I'm eating at the moment because we do consume it on an almost meal by meal basis. But I do think it's something I'll keep doing. So yeah, my expectation is that at the end of this, I'll be feeling fitter, leaner, less stressed. I'll be feeling less grumpy. I'll be feeling more energetic. I'll be feeling more inspired. And I just think I'll just be a better person to be around. That's what I think is going to happen over the course of this 10-week challenge. And I think I'm just going to hit my 42nd birthday feeling really good about myself physically and mentally, feeling like I'm in a great position to, once again, keep achieving my goals, to create a great environment for my family and be the dad and the partner that I want to be for my family, to inspire others towards health and wellness, which I hope to do over this journey, and to have lots of fun. Right? So that's my expectations. In terms of what I will do post my 42nd birthday, I think I've sort of mostly covered that as I go along. I can imagine that definitely what I would like to happen and what I anticipate will happen is that some of these changes will stick, and some of these changes I'll be happy to let slide a little bit. Once again, I'm not one for hard and fast rules. I don't like black and white thinking. I think that whilst that can sometimes be easier, like for example, it was easier just to say, I don't drink alcohol and to not consume alcohol for 8 years. However, I think that there's something to be said for, there were times, I went to, for example, friends' bucks parties where I didn't drink, or special occasions where I didn't just do a toast for a special occasion. I think having that degree of flexibility is a healthier way to be. And it's just a matter of, fine tuning every now and then. If you do sway off track, just sort of pulling it back into the homeostasis of where you would like it to be, And I think homeostasis is a way better way of thinking about it, right? Like think about anything natural, right? Think about temperature. You have a sort of homeostatic temperature of your body, but sometimes it'll be up a bit, sometimes it'll be down a bit, but it always kind of sways back to that midpoint. And I think that's much healthier and much more natural than trying to obsessively keep it at one point the whole time. For example, excessively trying to control a fever if you've got a slight elevation in temperature, when your body's actually trying to raise your temperature in order to keep it healthy, So I think sometimes we can obsess a little bit about that. Someone's knocking outside. But we don't necessarily need to. I think if we can maintain that little bit of flexibility whilst finding a healthy balance, then that's the best way to be. So some of these will stick, some of them will go. Find out along the journey. Make sure you're following me in my Healthy Lifestyle Choices with Dr. Brett Hill Facebook group. If you're on my Dr. Brett Hill page, the link is in the bio, in the link tree link. And I'll be posting updates about this. I will probably along the way, I'll post some more photos. If you've seen, I did just do a photo in my jocks of the kind of before, both flexed and unflexed, because I think that's the most honest way to do it, so that it's not like I'm just not flexing at the start and flexing at the end, and pretending I got great results. I probably will post along the way my weight if I do happen to check it. Like I said, I'm not fussed about it. It's not my focus, but I know that people will be interested in that, and like I said, I probably will be interested in it. Not because I'm trying to lose weight, but just out of a point of curiosity. It's just, for me, it's just one data point among many along the way. So it's not something I'm really bothered about or focused on, but I probably will check in on it. So I think it's probably fair and reasonable and honest that if I check in on it, that I share it with you. So that's it. That's my 10-week challenge, starting from now until my 42nd birthday, which is summer on the 12th of December. So I think it's actually slightly less than 10 weeks. I know you'll pull me up on that, Summer, because I know you're a stickler for those sort of details. It's probably 9.5 weeks away, but I'm calling it 10 weeks just because it's easier. And this is going to be the challenge. So have fun, guys. If you're joining me on all or any part of this challenge, I'd love to hear about it, either inside my Healthy Lifestyle Choices group, or if you are a member of my Exercising Resilience Mastermind group, I'd love to hear about it in there. Tell me what you think of what I'm doing. Tell me if you think, which bits you think are good, which bits you think are bad. Tell me how you're going along the way. Give me some feedback on how you think I'm going. I'd love to do this journey along with you guys, and this will definitely help me in my mission, my purpose, to inspire other people towards health and wellness. So have a great evening, guys. Look forward to chatting to you again soon, and thanks for 40 minutes. Thanks for listening to me dribble on for 40 minutes. See you guys.